Intermittent fasting has been touted as an excellent way to maintain health. It has a number of benefits. In fact, some people have compared intermittent fasting to providing the same health benefits as calorie restriction. And calorie restriction, which involves reducing your average daily calorie intake anywhere from 30 to 40%. In animals, that has been shown the only true way to extend longevity. There's not a lot of proof for it in humans. In humans, cutting calories by 30 to 40%, that's a pretty steep calorie reduction. That almost always leads to a pretty good amount of weight loss. Along with the weight loss, you have lower resting insulin levels, lower glucose levels, lower blood pressure levels, and lower body fat levels, all of which is conducive to longevity. So, in other words, also the calorie restriction process activates a number of genes in the body that are associated with longevity, such as the sirtuin genes. There's 7 of them, 1 through 7, and when you restrict calories, the body, it's looked on as a stress to the body, and the sirtuin proteins are activated under stress conditions to protect cells. So that's one of the mechanisms of calorie restriction. But if you think about it, and a couple of researchers have pointed this out, if you just exercise and go on a limited calorie diet with not necessarily calorie restriction of 40%, which is extreme, but just reduce enough calories to lose about 1 to 2 pounds of fat a week until you get down to a low body fat level, you'll get all the benefits of calorie restriction. In other words, lower insulin, lower body fat, lower systemic inflammation, without the starvation and lack of protein that can occur with some of the calorie restricted diets that causes a lot of loss of muscle. But getting back to intermittent fasting is kind of it's a lot easier than a calorie restriction because it offers some of the same benefits, but you don't have to stay on a constant calorie restricted diet. I know as I pointed out in past videos, there's various types of fasting, including intermittent fasting. One of them is called time restricted eating. Now, time restricted eating intermittent fasting involves fasting anywhere from 12 to maybe as much as 24 hours and not eating any food, just having liquids. That's the basic intermittent fasting, and then you would go back to eating normally. Now, if you look at, there's another type of intermittent fasting called time-restricted eating. Time-restricted eating was first demonstrated in lab animals like rats. They found that if the rats were restricted to eating all their food within, let's say, a 8 to 12 hour window, it caused a lot of beneficial changes that are almost very similar to calorie restriction. Now, in other words, they didn't really restrict calories, though. In other words, they just ate, but they ate within a limited time frame. As I said, 8 to 12 hours. If a human did it, let's say you would eat between 8 in the morning and let's say 6 at night, or 7 or 8 at night. At any other time, you don't have any food at all. That's time-restricted eating. And when time-restricted eating was first basically touted, they suggested that eating in this manner would lead to a considerable loss of body fat, because in the rodent studies, they compared 2 groups of rodents. One group they both ate the same amount of calories, but the group of rodents that was ate their food within a time restricted time frame gained less body fat compared to the rodents that ate ad libitum, meaning whenever they wanted. But this was a rodent study. So all of this kind of like, the big shock came, though, by a recent study that was published in the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine. This was a study conducted by Chinese researchers. It involved 139 participants who had high body fat levels. In other words, they were obese. They were given a calorie-restricted diet. Men were told to consume between 1,500 and 1,800 calories per day. The women in the study were limited to 1,200 to 1,500 calories a day. Half the study participants were then told to engage in time-restricted eating. The participants were permitted to eat their daily calorie requirement only between the hours of 8 and 4 p.m. In other words, they could take no food at any other time. The group using only calorie restrictions lost an average of 14 pounds, while the group that was also under time restrictions lost an average of 18 pounds over the 12-month period. However, the study authors said that the weight loss was not significantly different. In other words, it only varied by 4 pounds. So what they came to the conclusion that intermittent fasting is not any better than just normal calorie counting. In other words, it doesn't offer any real advantages as far as changes in metabolism, faster fat burning, and that kind of thing. What's really important is not so much the time frame of when you eat your food, but what you eat. In other words, if, for example, you do a time-restricted type of intermittent fasting, but you eat a lot of, let's say, high-carb foods or junk foods, it makes no difference that you're eating within a time frame. You're still not going to lose weight, and you're still not going to lose body fat, unless you, of course, you over-exercise or something like that. But in other words, you still have to eat good, even in a time-restricted manner. Now, I will say that there are other benefits to time-restricted eating, but it seems to support a better coordination with what they call the circadian rhythm, the normal body rhythm of how the body absorbs calories, this and that. So you generally get a better hormonal picture, better glucose control, probably better insulin control. But when it comes down to it, unless your calories are restricted, you're not going to. It's going on a time restricted plan is not going to be of any greater advantage than just eating normally and lowering calories. Again, time restricted. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it offers no real advantages. And by the way, that same is true for intermittent fasting in general. There's been a couple of studies under the assumption that intermittent fasting, people would lose more weight because they're not eating for, as I said, anywhere from 12 to 24 hours or even more. They always would lose more weight. But when they compared that to when they compared intermittent fasting to just straight calorie counting, again, there was no real advantage of intermittent fasting. So what does this all mean? If you want to use intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating for health purposes, in other words, because it kind of balances out some hormones, it might, again, give you better insulin sensitivity, this and that. It might better blood glucose control. If that's your motivation for doing intermittent fasting of any kind, that's great. Because as I said earlier, intermittent fasting, if you do it right, you will get about 90% of the benefits of calorie restriction, which is much harder to do. Very few people can stay consistently on a diet that limits calories to 30 to 40% of normal calorie intake. That is a couple of years ago they tried to do that, a human study. They started out with people, they only reduced the calories, I think it was 20% if I remember correctly. In other words, the study subjects reduced their normal calorie consumption by 20%, but after about 2 weeks they found that people just couldn't do it. They couldn't stay on the diet that restricted 20% of normal calories. So they went all the way down, they only restricted 12%. And that's the most the people could tolerate, 12% of daily calorie. That's kind of the same as a regular diet. So calorie restriction for most people is not realistic. Most people will not stay on it. But the thing about intermittent fasting is it's much easier for most people to do because all they got to do is cut food out, as I said, for a certain number of hours, depending on which type of intermittent fasting is different kinds. Some of them involve not eating one day, eating the next. Other types of intermittent fasting where you would eat 500 calories less on the fasting days. Next day you'd eat normal food. You'd alternate them. There's all different kinds of intermittent fasting. And as I said, They will give you most of the benefits as far as health of calorie restriction, but the bottom line is it's your total weekly calorie intake combined with your activity level. That's what's going to really determine your body composition, body fat. My point being, the main point I'm trying to make in this video is there's no magical fat loss associated with any type of intermittent fasting. Again, good for health. As far as body composition, greatly overrated. It's not that much better than just normal calorie counting. Or in some cases, if you want to focus on carbohydrate, which is what I did, I found for me counting carbohydrates made much more of was much superior to calorie counting as far as losing body fat. But it varies with the individual. So that's about all I'm going to say about this, is that, again, intermittent fasting, great for health, for body fat, not any better than calorie counting, not any better than regular dieting. If you want more information on nutrition, exercise science, anti-aging research, you can use today. Supplement science, which supplements work, which ones don't. You're going to get the truth here, because I'm not associated with any supplement company. I'm one of the last bastions of truth that you'll find on the internet, because I'm not on anybody's payroll. Nobody. So I can tell you the truth, and I will tell you the truth. Because I'll tell you what, if there's one thing I could say about myself, is I've been a searcher of truth all my life. I hate being lied to, and I always want to know the facts, the truth. Unfortunately, today you have an internet that has a lot of good information. It's vast amount of information on the internet. Unfortunately, there's a lot of bogus nonsense and bullshit, because anybody could write anything, make any type of video on the internet that is about as far away from the truth as we are from Pluto, as Earth is from Pluto. I mean, just complete lies. And that's one of the purposes of my Applied Metabolics newsletter. I wanted to give you a publication that has 100% truth, that's based on my 6 decades of experience, both in studying and training nutrition and fitness, and that's what you have in Applied Metabolics. I cover more topics in Applied Metabolics than any other digital publication. Some publications offer you good nutrition information. Others offer good exercise science, but very few of them cover the depth of material that I do in Applied Metabolics. There's no digital publication like it. It's 30 to 50 pages every month. It comes out on the first of every month. I guarantee you will learn something, no matter what your level of education or experience. So subscribe today at www.appliedmetabolics.com. When you subscribe, I'll send you an invitation to join my Applied Metabolics Facebook page. It's private. It's only for current subscribers of Applied Metabolics. I also have an email portal on my Applied Metabolics webpage. Again, only for current subscribers of Applied Metabolics that send me short messages about something you might have read in Applied Metabolics or anything that comes to mind, and I'll be happy to answer that as kind of a bonus, because I appreciate their subscription to Applied Metabolics, and I don't answer unsolicited questions. I don't. What else can I say? If you want to have the best friend you'll ever have, go to your local shelter, adopt a dog. They are the best. Take care.